Welcome to Two Guys.
A girl.
and an MBA.
Bribery's legal. Bribery's back, baby. Greed is good and bribery's back. What does the FCPA do again?
They just enforce foreign corruption that prohibits bribery by any official in the U.S. with any official to retain business, accounting provisions. It's enforced by the SEC and the Department of Justice. So broad ranging, but yeah, it's a pretty big deal. But if you look at the argument, and it's almost this, I guess, cultural argument, business is done differently in other places. Now, I mean, it's not a moral conversation. Maybe it is. Uh, like I mean, when I had a job, um, you know, I'd have people give me gifts. They would take me out for dinner, and I remember I was a buyer, and then Walmart came along and said, "You can't even buy our buyers a cup of coffee." They were just like nothing. You can't take them out. You can't have dinner. You can't. They just drew up like a line in the sand, zero, because the line was huge. Got vacations. There was all kinds of wacky things just to influence purchasing. So yeah, I think you got to draw some line. But at the same time, business is done differently in other countries. Like in Japan, you go out for drinks, or Korea, you hang out, you build your bond. So um, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it said here President Trump signed an executive order directing the DOJ to pause enforcing a nearly half-century-old law that prohibits American companies and foreign firms from bribing officials of foreign governments to obtain or retain business. And I saw the quote that he had many, many deals are unable to be made because nobody wants to do business because they don't want to feel like every time they pick up the phone, they're going to jail. And I was just like, if you feel like you're going to jail when you're picking up the phone, you're picking up the phone to do something shady, to bribe someone, right? What do
So
you
where
think?
is the limit? So
Yeah.
in my one of my job, it was the limit, I think $100. It could be like networking outside somewhere, or maybe small gift like T-shirt with logo or cup or something. Okay, it's a limit, but zero, nothing. Can I say thank you? Is it okay? So can I be polite?
Can you wear a
Oh,
really nice outfit and go meet them, or is like, oh no, 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 you got to wear a gray suit and cover your head? I mean, I don't know.
I think it's a gray area, it's like dinner, like you're as far describing your experience, dinner, dinner at a movie, buying, things for your kids, perks. Where do you draw that line? And if you, especially if you have a relationship or you become a friends with a supplier or a buyer or whatever, uh, you know, where is that line? Well, the FCPA was like that line, right? And now that line's gone. And I just think it sends a bad message to the rest of the world that says, okay, we're back, to bribing foreign officials to, and like, what about domestically? That could lead to, bribery of US officials if that sets a certain precedent. I think it looks bad. Uh, I don't think it's good for companies.
I think this is
no.
a typical Trump thing where he wants to level the playing field for American businesses. And he doesn't feel that with their hands tied, where other governments don't have this type of, I guess, law. But I think they're freezing it, they're looking at it. And I think what's going to happen is it's going to become broader. I think he's going to want to punish other people equally. I think foreign citizens, it is punishable. But I think if his mentality is the same, he's just saying, hey, you can't have an advantage over America, and if that means that I'm going to have to broaden this outside my jurisdiction, I'll do it. And if I'm not allowed, then I'm going to drop it for America. So I just want competition. I think his whole thing is pro competition, and he always feels taken advantage of by other countries. $36 trillion they owe. That's big money. Someone's got to pay it.
The
Not.
key thing he's doing is pausing the criminal prosecutions. Just wanted to say that. Go ahead, Elena.
I think it's not enough to sign a law or some restrictions. You need to control it. Which way, how he can control everyone? And okay, if you pretend that you control, if someone want to make a note and say, oh, my neighbor, my business partner took some bribe. How? It should be a lawsuit. Again, how you will control? Is it 1 cup of coffee or is it not cup of coffee? Or how, in which way it works? So who will control all of this?
So I don't get it. What's the economic disadvantage to the U.S. corporations? The article cites that too. This is on CNBC, that he's saying that he doesn't want to put U.S. businesses at an economic disadvantage to foreign competitors. What's the disadvantage? That the foreign competitors can bribe foreign officials? So like companies from Japan or the EU could bribe UK businesses, but US companies can't. I guess you need like a global kind of agreement. You need like a UN for corruption, which is never going to happen. So, right.
Right. It's funny you bring up the UN. I stopped reading magazines, but I have ones from 2017. And I think I kept it. And I opened up the first page, and the first page is about the UN and why Trump pulled out of the UN for that reason. Said too much corruption, we're wasting money. The next page was about immigration. This is 2017. Uh, every topic and war. There was and it was Palestine. Anyway, but that's the UN and I think it has to be a global thing. It's almost like patents. I think I had a patent for something. And I realized that and I was trying to get it done in China, but I realized China is not part of the patent, the entire patent rule. I think Europe and America have some sort of agreement. If you don't have a global standard, then it's an unfair playing field. And I think, if you look at patents and everything else, we need a global standard so that we can all compete. And I think that's the economic disadvantage for American companies.
See that the article says, that it became law in 1977, and the intent was to prevent American firms from fueling rampant public corruption that undermines the rule of law in many parts of the world. And I think that's what I was getting at earlier, is that America leads the way in many ways. And still, even though it's arguable whether the empires didn't decline, right? We talked about that last week. But they set an example. They're the standard bearer. The role model. And so to say, let's do away with corruption laws just because we want to have more of an advantage over certain shady actors, like, no, let's go after those actors and punish them and make it a level playing field by bringing up the standard. I guess that's the counter argument. I see the point of view of, well, let's just have no rules, baby. Bribery is back, right? That's where we're going. But you can do it another way. Like, you can have the tallest building in town by tearing everyone else's building down, or by building the tallest building, right? So
Olinda doesn't have any anti-corruption because she's too kind. She's never seen this shit before. I mean, I've seen. Oh,
I'm
okay.
surrounded by corruption. I think if you get a list of countries and we compare Kuwait, Canada, and Ukraine will be in one top 10 something.
Really? Tell us more.
Maybe not top 10, but still in we have a lot of corruption here, everywhere. There's a consequences, maybe, especially 30 years ago, 25, when Soviet Union's is dead, and it was no rules for anyone, and you can do whatever you want because no government. Okay, we have some government, but still we spent 5 years to prepare constitution, some law. It didn't work. That's why some people became crazy rich, like in few years. On the other hand, other type of people back to some under poverty level, and they say, "Oh, I have nothing to do. I didn't have work. I didn't have opportunities. I couldn't find anything." But it's like a crisis, So on one hand, it's like a disaster. On the other hand, no rules. I can buy something, sell something, sketch something, privatization and everything. So but it was in 90s. Now, of course, because it's like countries grow and we have rules, but still don't have enough to control, I think. And so court system, I don't think it's work as it should work. Again, because of corruption.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Donald Trump's like argument that he sent JD Vance over to the Ukraine. It said we spent like 500 billion. What do we got for it? I mean, it was always the argument to finance war is tough enough to justify, but where's all the money? Where is it landing? Is it landing with the people? Where's it going? And yeah, it's a big amount of money that went over that nobody can account for. That's what you're saying. There's no accountability, right? Here's the money. Can you at least show me where you spent it? No clue.
So that's how monitoring and controlling, like with projects. You need this stage when you run the project, and then you need to monitor and control. And if you miss this stage, you don't no outputs, any good outputs.
I mean, the money went to defense spending, right? Because, and you sent me an article here today. Defense stocks dropped sharply Thursday after Trump suggested U.S. could massively cut defense spending. So, that's where it's going. It's going to Lockheed Martin and all the companies that make the bombs and the bullets and the guns and tanks and the plane, whatever equipment is going over there, whatever relief is going over there, and it's going into some people's pockets, no doubt, right? And now with this repeal of FCPA is gonna go in people's pockets, right? Please consider subscribing below.
Thank you for being with us. Please leave your comments, feedback, what you think about us, and see you in the next podcast. Bye.